So Arjuna asked, you can see now website the verses now, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now in text 54, this is the section, Atmarama section, Sthita Pragya. So Arjuna is asking, "O Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak? What is his language? How does he sit and how does he walk?" So Lord Krishna replies, gives a general symptom in verse 55 and 56 and 57. He tells about what is his language, what he speaks. 58 and 59, he will tell about how does he sit. That means 56 and 57 is how he controls mind. 58 and 59, how he restrains his senses. So we read about the example of tortoise given by Lord Krishna, that one who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects, as a tortoise draws its limb within the shell, is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. And today's verse is 59. Okay, so this is about how one can control senses, how one can really be successful in controlling the senses, is given in this verse. So I will read the Sanskrit and will request one of you to volunteer for the English. 259. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinah rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. Okay. Volunteer. Translation and purport.
Though the
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. But the ceasing such engagement by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. Purport: unless one is transcendently situated, it is not possible to cease from sense enjoyment. The process of restriction from sense enjoyment by rules and regulations is something like restricting a diseased person from certain type of established. The patient, however, neither likes such restrictions nor loses his taste for eatables. Similarly, since restriction by some spiritual process like Ashtanga Yoga in the matter of Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, and Dhyana, etc., is recommended for less intelligent persons who have no better knowledge. But one who has tasted the beauty of the Supreme Lord Krishna in the course of his advancement in Krishna consciousness no longer has a taste for dead material things. Therefore, restrictions are there for the less intelligent neophytes in the spiritual advancement of life. But such restrictions are only good until one actually has a taste for Krishna consciousness. When one is actually Krishna conscious, he is automatically loses his taste for pale things.
Thank you so much. So one may withdraw the senses, like one may by force not engage the senses. Like here the diseased person, restricted, but then the taste remains. Like, you know, it's very prominent, seen by diabetic people, that they should not eat sweets, but actually they do not eat sweets. They restrict, but sometimes they say, okay, I'm not eating sweet, now I want at least some enjoyment today now. So they are longing for that. It's not that they have lost the interest in sweets. They have you know, their desire increases more to eat sweet items. Yeah. So Srila Prabhupada gives that is something like here somebody is trying to control the senses by Ashtanga yoga process. It is for those who have not developed their higher taste, their relationship with Krishna, the enjoyment in relationship with service of Krishna. So as soon as one gets the taste for Krishna consciousness, then he automatically loses taste for pale things, all the material things. So pale things means things which are for one's own sense enjoyment, things seeing something different from Krishna. But those who are advanced in Krishna consciousness, they see everything in relation with Krishna. So this will be explained by Srila Prabhupada in further verses. That as soon as we see a thing in relationship with Krishna, we can offer that thing to Krishna. Prabhupada will tell in the next verse that a devotee offers the food to Krishna first, and then one can enjoy. So unless we have developed that mood, that bhava, or that consciousness is something. Consciousness is okay, but then what is this Krishna consciousness means? It is not just that like mechanically you reminding, but automatically you are naturally drawn to be with Krishna. You are naturally drawn to love Krishna. Naturally, like the gopis in Vrindavan, naturally they were running to Krishna. They could not stop themselves. So that's the higher taste. So for them, the gopis, when they developed that so much, the strongest love of anybody in the universe for Krishna is from the gopis. So the gopis that developed so much love for Krishna that they could give up everything, their family relationship, their social customs, and all kind of restrictions. They could give up everything. They were ready to even go to hell for Krishna because they love Krishna so much. So that is the highest taste. So we are not there. We can just aspire to slowly develop that relationship with Krishna, so that naturally Maharani Kunti in Srimad Bhagavatam, she is praying to Krishna that, my dear Krishna, as the water of Ganges flow to the ocean, naturally flows. Ganges water is forcefully flowing, right? Similarly, let my mind, let my consciousness be always flow towards you, my dear Krishna. So that is that higher taste. Like she is wanting to be with Krishna in Krishna consciousness. So until then, like we are neophytes. We are neophytes in spiritual life, and we have to follow the rules and regulations. That is not bad. But then we have to understand, we have to develop the higher taste. Then naturally, then there will be no any residual desire. Our senses will be naturally controlled by obtaining the higher taste. But it is very difficult to control the senses. Krishna will say in this verse 60. Yatato yapi kaunteya purushasya vipaschitah indriyani pramatini haranti prashabham manaha. Anil Prabhu, please go ahead.
The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. There are many learned sages, philosophers, and transcendentalists who try to conquer the senses, but in spite of their endeavors, even the greatest of them sometimes fall victim to material sense enjoyment due to the agitated mind. Even Vishwamitra, a great sage and perfect yogi, was misled by Menaka into sex enjoyment. Although the yogi was endearing for sense control with
7 types of penance, and yoga practice. And of course, there are so many similar instances in the history of world. Therefore, it is very difficult to control the mind and senses without being fully Krishna consciousness. Without engaging the mind in Krishna, one cannot see such material engagements. A practical example is given by Sri Yamuna Charya, a great saint and devotee, who says, Ed avadi mama sita Krishna padar vinde. Nava nava ra dhamari udyatam nantam distik thad avadi butha nari sanyame smaryamane bhavati mukha vikrada swata Vishutamka. Since my mind has been engaged in the service of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna and have been enjoying an ever new transcendental humor, whenever I think of sex life with a woman, my face at once turns from it and I spit at the thought. Krishna consciousness is such a transcendentally nice thing that automatically material enjoyment becomes distasteful. It is as if a hungry man had satisfied his hunger by a sufficient quantity of nutritious eatables. Maharaja Ambarisha also conquered a great yogi, Durvasa Muni, simply because his mind was engaging Krishna consciousness.
Thank you. So about the Durvasa Muni and Amrish Maharaj, this will be explained by Srila Prabhupada in verse 61. And yeah, so as soon as one develops that love for Krishna, attraction for Krishna, Krishna is all attractive. The name Krishna means, literally it is, in English you would translate the name Krishna means all attractive. So but then we are trying to hide ourselves in material consciousness. So therefore we don't get attracted to Krishna because we have material coverings, like our consciousness is covered. Srila Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gives example that it is like the mirror is covered with dust. So when we chant the holy name, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, when we chant the holy name of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, it is like cleaning or polishing the mirror and removing the dust, the material consciousness dust. And then our consciousness becomes clean by chanting the process. And gradually we can develop the taste for chanting. And then we can give up material desires. Then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says one has to chant in the mood of humility, thinking oneself lower than straw on the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree. So that means with the humble mood, when we chant for Krishna's mercy, chant his name regularly, with that humility, then one can give up. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundari kavita va jagadisa kamaye. Mama janmani janmaneshware bhavatad bhaktir ahatuki tvai. That is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's fourth stanza in his Siksha Ashtakam. He says, my dear Lord, my dear Krishna, I do not want wealth. I do not want beauty. I do not want many followers. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundari kavita. I do not want a scholar to become a great scholar or kavi. So, mama janmani janmaneshware bhavatad bhakti rahatuki. So, Srila Prabhupada says that, so what do you want? So Mahaprabhu says, I want janmani bhakti. So, my dear Lord Krishna, birth after birth, I want to serve you with love and devotion. I want your devotional service. So that means if a pure devotee is not even aspiring for liberation. He's saying, birth after birth, I want to serve you, my Lord. So that's the highest taste So as soon as one gets the taste of the holy name, as soon as one gets the taste of Krishna consciousness, gets attracted to Krishna, Krishna's activities, hearing about Krishna's pastimes, hearing about glory of Krishna, then one can lose, one can give up the lower engagement in material life. So then Lord Krishna is giving the prescription how to keep the senses under control. Tani, so verse 61, Tani sarvani sayamya yukta asita matparaha vasehi yasya indriyani tasya pragya pratisthita. He is saying yukta asita matparaha. So asita. So how he, so Arjuna says kim asita kim vrajet. So how he sits, how he walks. So Krishna says yukta asita. So he is connected with me. That's how he sits. That he's matparaha. He says in relationship with me, he is always connected. He's connecting his senses. So Mataji, you were there?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu, I can read.
Go ahead.
One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control and fixes his consciousness upon me is known as man of steady intelligence. That the highest conception of yoga perfection is Krishna consciousness is clearly explained in this verse. And unless one is Krishna conscious, it is not at all possible to control senses. As cited above, the great sage Durvasha Muni picked a quarrel with Maharaj Ambrish, and Durvasa Muni unnecessarily became angry out of pride and therefore could not check his senses. On the other hand, the king, although not as powerful a yogi as the sage, but a devotee of Lord, silently tolerated all sage injustice and thereby emerged victorious. The king was able to control his senses because of following qualification as mentioned as Srimad Bhagavatam.
You want to read all the Sanskrit or you want to just read the English?
Prabhu, I can read just the English text.
Okay, go ahead.
King Ambrish fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, engaged his words in describing the abode of Lord, his hands in cleansing the temple of Lord, his ear in hearing the pastime of Lord, his eyes in seeing the form of Lord, his body in touching the body of devotee, his nostrils in smelling the flavor of the flowers offered to lotus feet of Lord, his tongue in tasting tulsi leaf offered to him, his legs in traveling to holy place where his temple is situated, his head in offering obeisances unto Lord, and his desire in fulfilling the desires of the Lord. And all these qualifications made him fit to become Matpara, devotee of the Lord. The word Matpara is most significant in this connection. How one can become Matpara is described in the life of Maharaja Ambrish. Sri Baldev Vidya Bhushna, a great scholar and acharya in the line of Matpara, remarks, Mat Bhakti Prabhavina Sarvandriya Vijaya Purvika Swatma Drishti Su Labhiti Bhavya. The senses can be completely controlled only by strength of devotional service to Krishna. Also, the example of fire is sometimes given as a blazing fire burns everything within a room. Lord Vishnu, situated in the heart of yogi, burns up all kind of impurities. The Yoga Sutra also describe meditation on Vishnu and not meditation on the void. The so-called yogi who meditate on something other than Vishnu forms simply waste their time in a vain search after some phantasmagogria. We have to be Krishna conscious, devoted to personality of Godhead. This is the aim of real yoga.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Yes. So Matpara word is very most significant, as Srila Prabhupada says. Mat Krishna, Matpara means man, connected with Krishna. So Maharaj Amrish is using all his senses in service to Krishna. Every senses, like nose is smelling the flower, tongue is tasting the tulsi leaf, his hand is cleaning the temple, leg is walking to the temple. Like that, each and every senses he is using in service of the Lord. And he is completely fixed in service of the Lord. There is no chance for him to be engaged any of his senses other than Krishna's service. So therefore he is perfect Matpara devotee, and because he is so fixed with Krishna's service, he is very dear to Krishna, right? Because Krishna is pleased by our service. Krishna says a little bit advancement in this path will save us from the greatest danger, right? In verse 40 we learn this chapter. So Maharaj Ambarish is pure devotee, very fixed up devotee, Matpara devotee. And Durvasa Muni, you might have heard Durvasa Muni, he is, he gets irritated very soon. He gets pleased also very soon. So you might have heard the story, but in short, Durvasa Muni just wanted, he visited Ambarish Maharaj on Dwadasi day. So next day of Ekadashi is the day when you were fasting on previous day on Ekadashi, and on Dwadasi is a certain auspicious time, a Muhurta, you have to break your fast. So the King Ambarish wanted to break his fast at right time, but then this Durvasa Muni came and he said, okay, I want to have meal with you. So king says, yes, please take bath. And then the sage took long time. He did not return in time. By the time the breakfast time was getting over, the king consulted his priest and they say, well, you can sip some water, a drop of water, and you are not actually breaking the fast. And actually you are breaking the fast, but not actually you are eating any food. So you are not offending your guest. Actually, in Vedic times, it is a right etiquette to feed the guest first, and then you get your own meal. So anyway, Durvasa Muni, he was a powerful yogi. He could understand that, oh, king has broken, he took water, he sipped the water, he ate, he assumed that, he took his breakfast before me. He was completely angry. He became so angry, then he just he created a fiery demon, and then the fire demon, through that fire he wanted to burn this king. But then immediately Lord Krishna's chakra came and he finished the fiery demon, and he started chasing Durvasa Rishi, Durvasa Muni, and Durvasa Muni running, and this chakra was changing, and he could not be saved by Lord Brahma, he could not be saved by Lord Shiva. Finally he went to Vishnu Loka, and Krishna in the form of Vishnu told to Durvasa Muni that even I cannot save you, dear Durvasa Muni. You have to go back to Ambarish, King Ambarish, because my devotees only can excuse. I don't have that power to retract this Sudarshana. Only if my devotee excuse you, then only you can be saved. So Durvasa Muni, he comes back, he begs for forgiveness to King Amrish, and King Amrish becomes embarrassed. He says, "You are such a powerful yogi, and Durvasa Muni, I don't deserve to be kind of asking me for forgiveness." So anyway, the matter was settled, and then Sudarshan Chakra retreated. So this is the power of a devotee. A devotee is very humble, but Krishna is always protecting them. So that is mentioned because he is Matpara devotee. His senses are filled. Krishna is protecting them. So now in next two verses, verse 62 and 63, we will learn about what happens if the senses are not controlled. Where it starts and how we end up. Where do we end up? What is the consequences of not being able to control our senses? So verse 62. Dhyayato visayan punsa sangaste supajayate sangas sanjayate kamaha kamat krodho vijayate. Okay, anybody else like to volunteer again? Yes, Mataji, go ahead.
While contemplating the objects of senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. One who is not Krishna conscious is subjected to material desire while contemplating the object of senses. The senses require real engagement, and if they are not engaged in transcendental loving service of Lord, they will certainly seek engagement in the service of materialism. In the material world, everyone, including Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, to say nothing of other demigods in the heavenly planet, is subjected to the influence of sense object. And the only method to get out of this puzzle of material existence is to become Krishna conscious. Lord Shiva was deep in the meditation, and when Parvati agitated him for sense pleasure, he agreed to the proposal, and as a result, Kartikeya was born. When Haridas Thakur was a young devotee of Lord, he was similarly allured by the incarnation of Maya Devi. But Haridas easily passed the test because of his unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna. As illustrated in the above mentioned verse of Sri Yamunacharya, a sincere devotee of the Lord shuns all material sense enjoyment due to his higher taste for spiritual enjoyment in the association of Lord. That is the secret of success. One who is not therefore in Krishna consciousness, however powerful he may be controlling the sense by artificial repression, is sure ultimately to fail. For the slightest thought of sense pleasure will agitate him to gratify his desires.
Yes, so it starts with the contemplation, just looking at the object of senses, contemplation. We may be walking, going on stores, or we can window shopping. That's how the window shopping and all those marketing things happens in the TV, in media, in social media, everywhere. They are showing, promoting so many things to buy, use, this, that. So then immediately, like, they try to grab our attention. And once we start thinking about it, oh yeah, I think I should use this thing, and let me try this thing, let me order this thing, and So anyway, so when we don't get the things, then what happens? then there is a anger, right? Oh, we get frustrated. We are not able to satisfy the senses, then we get frustrated. Then what happens? Krishna tells in the next verse. After one gets angry of not satisfying the lust, then क्रोधाद् भवति सम्मोहः सम्मोहात् स्मृति भ्रम स्मृति भ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशो बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति. Anil Prabhu, you are there?
Yes, Prabhu. Give me two. I mean, give me a few seconds. I'll wash my hands. Give me a few seconds, Prabhu.
Yeah.
I can read, Prabhuji.
Yes,
I
sure.
joined a little late.
Yeah. Oh, great. Okay, Pratima. Yes, go ahead.
From anger, complete delusions arise, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. By development of
No,
Krishna consciousness,
we read the
sorry, Srilal Roop Goswami has given us this direction. Just find it difficult to read the Sanskrit part, but if you can, yeah.
प्रपंचति कतया बुद्धिया हरि संबंधी वस्तुनः मुमुक्षुभिः परित्यागो वैराग्यम फल्गु कथ्यते. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. By development of Krishna consciousness, one can know that everything has its use in the service of the Lord. Those who are without knowledge of Krishna consciousness artificially avoid material objects, and as a result, they desire liberation from material bondage. Is called falgu, or less important. On the other hand, a person in Krishna consciousness knows in the service not a victim consciousness. For example, for an impersonalist
Problem or Mataji Pratima's internet?
So after offering, you stop sharing.
Haribol.
Hello.
Hare Krishna. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Prabhu.
Hello.
Okay, so
No,
is
we
it?
can hear you. Mataji was breaking.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. Anil Prabhu is there. Pratima, please excuse us. Your signal is not very good. So let Anil read again, okay?
Yes, Prabhu. So can I read from where she left?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, by development of Krishna consciousness, one can know that everything has to use in the service of the Lord. Those who are
Sorry,
without
I don't know
the
what happened. My internet got disconnected, I think. I'm sorry.
That's
Yes.
fine. Anil is reading. Anil is reading. Let him complete. Okay. Thank you much.
Okay.
Yes. Those who are without knowledge of Krishna consciousness artificially try to avoid material objects, and as a result, although they desire liberation from material bondage, they do not attain to the perfect stage of renunciation. Their so-called renunciation is called falgu, or less important. On the other hand, a person in Krishna consciousness knows how to use everything in the service of the Lord. Therefore, he does not become a victim of material consciousness. For example, for an impersonalist, the Lord or the absolute being impersonal cannot eat, whereas impersonalist tries to avoid good eatables. A devotee knows that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and that he eats all that is offered to him in devotion. So after offering good eatables to the Lord, the devotee takes the remnants called prasadam. Thus, everything becomes spiritualized, and therefore there is no danger of a downfall. The devotee takes prasadam in Krishna consciousness, whereas non-devotee rejects it as material. The impersonalist The impersonalist therefore cannot enjoy life due to his artificial renunciation, and for this reason, a slight agitation of the mind pulls him down again into the pool of material existence. It is said that such a soul, even though rising up to the point of liberation, falls down again due to his not having support in devotional service.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah. So unless the senses are engaged in higher taste, right? In 59, we learned that unless the senses are engaged in higher taste, like a child wants to play, like you cannot force a child to sit down and do nothing. Immediately when the child gets a chance, the child wants to play. So if the child is crying, you have to give the engagement to the child so that can engage. Like that, our senses are also like children, that we need engagement. So as soon as we are engaged in Krishna service, then the material service, the taste for material activities are finished. In this verse, like I was trying to say earlier, that when we understand everything in connection with Krishna, because we have to understand, Krishna will tell in further chapters that everything is created by Krishna. Everything related with Krishna, everything is for Krishna's enjoyment. So like suppose I own something, so I deserve to enjoy something. That's what we think materially, right? So Krishna owns everything, so he deserves to enjoy everything. Like you might have heard, I'm sure all of us have heard about Lord Krishna used to steal butter. He liked to steal butter. So therefore his name is Makhan Chor, right? So he is stealing, but actually he does not he is not actually like an ordinary thief, because everything belongs to Krishna. Similarly, Gopi Jana Vallabha, he is the lord of all the gopis, and he married 16,108. Some people say, oh, Krishna doesn't have moral thing, he does immoral thing, and he has thousands of women, and all those things they blame. But why thousands? Billions, trillions, infinite number. All of us are Krishna's wives. Actually, all of us are meant for Krishna's service, Krishna's enjoyment, to give Krishna pleasure. Krishna has created everything, every one of us, for his own enjoyment. So our purpose is to give enjoyment to Krishna. That's our role. If your employer has hired you to serve the company, your duty is to serve the company, not to make the profit on the side. That is illegal. So because of that, one may suffer. So like when we try to take things for our own enjoyment, then we get sin. Like in chapter 3, Krishna will say that the sages who offer their food to Krishna, they get relief from all kind of sins, whereas those who cook for their own sense enjoyment, they are verily eating only sin. So when we do not offer the food to Krishna, then we are eating sin, because everything is Krishna's property. And when we do not offer to Krishna first, then we are actually stealing his Krishna's property. Srila Prabhupada says, then how one can become peaceful if one is a thief? So like that, we have to understand that everything belongs to Krishna. We have to offer to Krishna. We have to see the thing in relationship with Krishna. And that way our senses can be engaged in serving Krishna. And we can serve Krishna by honoring the prasad, by eating the food offered to Krishna. So that is our Acharya, Rupa Goswami. We are called Rupa Nugas. because Rupa Goswami is the direct disciple of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I was quoting the Sikshastakam, who was telling how one should chant the holy name to clear the consciousness from all the material dust. So Rupa Goswami is a direct disciple of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he says that if someone gives without knowing the thing's relationship with Krishna, then it is called Falgu Vairagya. So everything belongs to Krishna. When we engage everything in Krishna service, then it is the real Vairagya. This house belongs to me, let me use it for Krishna service. My body belongs to Krishna, let it use for Krishna's glorification. Everything belongs to Krishna, let everything be used in Krishna service. That is the real Vairagya. Nothing belongs to us. So I stopped sharing this one. Let us see if you have a question, and we can discuss some question, and then I will show some slides at the end. After we can discuss something right now. Okay, any discussion? No discussion right now. Then I can pull the slides and let's see. So these are the questions. You can see the slide now, right? Yes. Okay. So Arjuna asked, what is the symptom of one whose consciousness is merged in transcendence? So Krishna replies that in 55. How does he speak and what is his language? That is about mind control in 56 and 57. Krishna answers that. And 58 and 59, Krishna answers the question of how does he sit as Sthita Pragyan. That means how he controls the senses, like a tortoise withdraws the limb, and how he controls the senses by getting the higher taste. One gives up the lower taste. And how does he walk? He will explain from verse 64 onwards in this chapter up to 71, and 72 is the last chapter. So I think in next couple of weeks we can finish this chapter, the last section of this chapter. So, but then verse 60 he is explaining about how one can keep the mind under full control by engaging in Krishna's service. In 61 he says, and 62 and 63. So 60 is about the nature of the senses. The very strong one can be pulled by the senses. 61 he says, you can control your senses by offering your consciousness to me, like Ambarish Maharaj using everything in Krishna's service, Matpara devotee. And then 62 and 63 is about what happens if we are not able to control the senses. So we went through this. So this is about verse 59, getting the higher taste. Embodied souls may be restricted from sense enjoyment. So if one is restricted, the taste does not go away. So here in the left side you can see a yogi. He is sitting and meditating, but his thoughts are going to enjoyments. So he's saying, no, I don't want to do it. But then he's thinking, oh, again his senses are getting pulled up because not getting the higher engagement. The senses are not engaged. But whereas somebody who has developed the higher taste and engaged in Krishna's service will automatically lose the taste for sense enjoyment. So here you can see in right side, a devotee is engaged in offering arati, cleaning the pots for service of the Lord, cleaning the temple of the Lord, honoring the, so here is cooking on the right side, and then honoring the prasadam offered to the Lord. So by that way, our senses are engaged in Krishna's service, chanting Krishna's name, looking at the deity form of Krishna, smelling the flower offered to Krishna. So yeah, that way, if someone is engaging all the senses like Ambrish Maharaj, then one will lose the lower taste, because the senses needs engagement. So we have went through this Sita Pragya, how he walks. So Krishna says, one who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me is known as a man of steady intelligence, Matpara devotee. So we went through this Durvasa Muni versus Ambarish Maharaj story. And here is Srila Prabhupada doing all these activities. Srila Prabhupada sometimes chanting, sometimes giving a class on Bhagavad Gita. He's writing his books, he's leading kirtan. Even if he is going to morning walk, he was speaking to his disciples, the practical examples in life. He used to go on seashore, he used to show some practical things. He used to point out some trees, some birds, and he used to bring out how everything is related with Krishna. He was teaching by example. Then he's teaching how to play mridanga, how to glorify Krishna by musical instruments and the kirtan, cooking for Krishna. And this is his offering prasadam to Krishna. Honoring prasadam, engaging in kirtan, recording his voice for translation of Sanskrit literature to English, and serving the deity Krishna Balram temple in Vrindavan. So this is the way, like Maharaj Ambarish is doing, Srila Prabhupada is teaching us how to engage our senses. So the man of steady intelligence is restrained his senses, keeping under full control, and he is fixed in Krishna consciousness. And he is by constantly engaging all the senses in service of Krishna, he is fixed up. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that Paramatma, Vishnu form sitting in the heart as Paramatma, burns up all the impurities in the heart. And so there is no material desire. And verse 62 and 63 is about the spiraling down, right from beginning of contemplating on the object of senses, developing attachment. And here is the series of the steps falling down. Krishna says, once you start thinking, contemplating about the object of senses, that means in thinking stage, you are in thinking stage, you think about the something, you develop attachment for them. Sangha stesu upajayate, sangha sanjayate kama, the lust develops, that is willing to act. And then if you don't get the object, then you become angry, and then anger is the mode of ignorance. And from there it is delusion, bewilderment of memory. Then there is a loss of intelligence. One cannot use his intelligence properly, what to do, what not to do if one is angry and lost memory and delusion. And then because of the loss of intelligence, one cannot take appropriate intelligent step towards Krishna, and one falls down into again material existence. That means gross sensual enjoyment. One falls down. So here is something, a nice slide I got from a devotee. They shared with me that one has to stop at the time of getting the desire, the stimuli itself. So one has to pause and stop, like, I start thinking about this. So from there, one has to divert the attention. Instead of thinking about something, object of sense enjoyment, immediately divert to Krishna. immediately start thinking about Krishna's beauty, Krishna's name, Krishna's devotees, how devotees are nice, how prasadam is good, how Krishna is beautiful, how Kirtan is so melodious. So connect to the real self, because we are not this body, we are eternal part and parcel of Krishna. So we have to, willfully use intelligence at that time before falling down, all the way down. At the time of the contemplation itself, we have to stop, pause, and then respond, saying yes to Krishna, happily accepting Krishna, and diverting our attention towards Krishna. Then we can stop the fall down. So I stop the sharing again, and yeah, we can discuss. If you have found something new, interesting fact today, then you can share something interesting, or if you have a question, we can definitely. But it seems like everything has been explained clearly by Srila Prabhupada. I'm sure you have got something interesting today to act. It's a very practical thing that Krishna is telling us. So, Hare Krishna. Anil, probably usually you have questions. Today you have something to share.
I mean, like, I'm clear with everything what you have said today, Prabhu. So I don't have any questions but on today's lecture.